Hello students, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss human reproduction part 2. Accessory male reproductive glands. The secretion of accessory reproductive glands are called seminal plasm. These secretions are essential for the viability, means survival and motility movement of the sperms. Accessory reproductive glands include a pair of seminal vesicles, one prostate gland, and a pair of bulbourethral glands. Seminal vesicles. These seminal vesicles are also called uterus masculinus. Once observe the diagram, here the leaf-like structures, these are called as the seminal vesicles. These seminal vesicles are opens into the ejaculatory duct or maybe urethra. The seminal vesicles forms from the Wolffian duct of the embryo, and the Wolffian duct is the precursor of reproductive organ in the male embryo. In females, seminal vesicles form oviducts. Seminal vesicles produces 60 to 70% of seminal fluid in seminal plasma. The secretions of seminal vesicles contains fructose, fibrinogen, hyaluronidase, prostaglandins, and ascorbic acid. Our body consists of different types of fluids like lymph, blood, seminal plasma, sweat, etc. Among all these fluids, this seminal plasma contains or secretes fructose. So fructose is secreted by the accessory reproductive glands. The fructose is also present in blood, but it is a form due to digestion of carbohydrates in digestive system, and it is absorbed into the blood to carry the various parts of the body. Whereas in seminal vesicles, it secretes that fructose. Prostate gland. Prostate gland is unpaired. That means it present only one prostate gland is present and located below the urinary bladder. Let's observe in the diagram. So the leaf-like structures which are called as seminal vesicles, and this region is urinary bladder. So below this urinary bladder, this is called as a prostate gland. It is not a two, it is all together, it is a one gland, prostate gland, which is present below the urinary bladder. And this prostate gland produces 20% of seminal fluid in the semen. And the prostate gland secretion contains citric acid, calcium ions, fibrinolysin, phospholipids, etc. Bulbourethral glands. Bulbourethral glands are also called Cowper's glands, and these glands are found on lateral side of urethra. Let's observe the diagram. So urethra or maybe ejaculatory duct, it passes through penis, and it is one end, it is attaches to this vas deferens. So vas deferens from testis opens into the ejaculatory duct. So now on the lateral side of this small round structures are present on either side of the urethra. Lateral side of urethra consists this Cowper's glands or maybe bulbourethral glands. Bulbourethral gland secretes an alkaline substance prior to ejaculation. That means releasing of sperms that protects sperm by neutralizing the acid environment of the urethra. The bulbourethral glands also secrete mucus that lubricates the lining of the urethra, which decreases the number of spermatozoa injured during ejaculation. The mucus also lubricates the end of the penis during sexual intercourse. Sperms released from the seminiferous tubules are transported by the accessory ducts. The path from which the sperms are transported by accessory ducts as follows. Seminiferous tubules are the sites for the production of spermatozoa. From these seminiferous tubules are opens into a space that is called as reta testis. So from seminiferous tubules, the spermatozoa enters into reta testis. From this reta testis, a small tubules are arises and which are called as vasa efferentia. This vasa efferentia opens into the epididymis. This epididymis is considered as a primary storehouse of the spermatozoa. This epididymis opens out into urethra through vas deferens. So this vas deferens is considered as secondary storehouse of spermatozoa. Semen. What is a semen? The seminal plasma along with sperms constitute the semen. So semen is equal to seminal fluid plus sperms together called as semen, and this semen is alkaline fluid and its pH is 7.4. The human male ejaculates, that means releases out about 200 to 300 million sperms during a sexual intercourse. For normal fertility, at least 60% sperms must have normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them must show vigorous motility. The normal sperm count in human male is 20 to 120 million per ml. Some unusual features regarding this spermatozoa. Agiospermia, a man whose semen contains no sperms, are called agiospermia. In simple representation, agiospermia is equal to seminal plasma minus sperms without spermatozoa. This agiospermia is due to inadequate sperm production. There is no sufficient production of sperm will takes place. That's why the semen does not contains sperms. That condition is called as agiospermia. Oligospermia, a man whose semen contains low sperm count. In previous slide we discussed that the normal sperm count is equal to 20 to 120 million per ml. Oligospermia is nothing but low sperm count in the semen. So that means the sperm density is less than 20 million per ml. That then it is called as oligospermia. The other unusual feature, asthenozoospermia. A man produces sperms with low motility or movement. That condition is called as asthenozoospermia. Another unusual feature is teretospermia. It is also referred as teretospermia. It is abnormal sperm morphology, that means shape, caused by either defect in the head, midpiece and tail. Till now we are completed human male reproductive system, and let us start the human female reproductive system. Ovaries. A pair of ovaries is the main or primary sex organ of female reproductive system. Both ovaries are located in abdominal cavity. Each ovary is attached to the posterior layer of peritoneal ligament with the help of mesovarium. So what is meant by peritoneum? The membrane forming the lining of the abdominal cavity is called peritoneum. Each ovary is approximately 2 to 4 centimeters in length and contains thousands of developing follicles. Each ovary is surrounded by a connective tissue sheath called tunica albuginea. The inner surface of ovary is covered with a thin germinal epithelium. It is formed of a simple squamous or cuboidal epithelium which gives rise to the follicles and ova. So let's once recollect the animal tissues. Animal tissues are classified into four types: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nerve tissue. So now here the ovary is lined with germinal epithelium. This germinal epithelium is made up of a simple squamous epithelium or cuboidal epithelium. So this germinal epithelium is helpful for gives rise to the follicles and ova. The epithelium encloses the inner part called as ovarian stroma, which composed of the connective tissue containing blood capillaries. The ovarian stroma is divided into two zones. Peripheral, that means outer zone, is called as cortex, and inner zone called as a medulla. The ovarian stroma contains the developing follicles. Accessory female reproductive ducts. Accessory female reproductive ducts includes a pair of fallopian tubes, uterus, and vagina. Fallopian ducts or oviducts. Fallopian ducts or oviducts. Fallopian ducts are developed from the Mullerian duct of the embryo. Here the Mullerian duct is the precursor of reproductive organ in the embryo during intrauterine life. Each fallopian tube or duct is about 10 to 12 centimeters long, and it is extends from the periphery of the ovary to the uterus. The part of oviduct or fallopian tube closer to ovary is funnel shaped called infundibulum. Let's see the diagram. So ovary, the part of the fallopian tube which is close to the ovary. So this is the region close to the ovary, and it is appears as a funnel shape. That region is called as infundibulum. The edges of the infundibulum have finger-like projections called fimbriae. So if you observe this infundibulum in the diagram, it consists a small finger-like structures on the edges of the infundibulum. That finger-like structures are called as the fimbriae. This fimbriae is helpful to collect the ovum into fallopian tube. The infundibulum leads into a wider part of oviduct called as ampulla. So let's see. This funnel shaped structure of oviduct is called as the infundibulum, and its finger-like projections called as the fimbriae. Now this infundibulum is leads into the wider part that is called as the ampulla. Ampulla leads into a narrow part called as isthmus that joins the uterus. So now this ampulla, it become narrow and it joins to the uterus. That narrow region which extended from the ampulla is called as the isthmus. Each fallopian tube is lined with cilia to help the egg or ovum move towards the uterus. So inside this fallopian tube, the walls of the inner walls of the fallopian tube are lined with the cilia. The movement of the cilia is helpful for pull the ovum towards the uterus. The fertilization takes place in the ampullary isthmus junction. The fusion of male and female gamete, that sperm and ova, fuse at the junction of ampulla and isthmus region. Uterus. Uterus, it is also termed as hysteria or womb. It is an inverted pear-shaped structure, and uterus attaches to the pelvic wall by ligaments. So ligaments are the connective tissues. The wall of the uterus has three layers of tissues. They are perimetrium, the outermost thin membrane of uterus is called as perimetrium. Myometrium, a middle thick layer of smooth muscles called as myometrium. Endometrium, the innermost glandular layer that lines the cavity of uterus is called endometrium. Let's see in the diagram. So this uterus is the inverted pear structure, and the wall of uterus has three layers. The outer layer is called as the perimetrium and it is thin membrane, and the middle layer is called as myometrium. It is thick and made up of smooth muscles, and the innermost layer is called as endometrium and it is glandular. The endometrium undergoes cyclic changes during menstrual cycle, and the endometrium undergoes strong contractions during delivery of the baby. So simply we can call it as the labor pains is due to the contractions of endometrium. The lower tip of uterus is called cervix. Once observe the diagram, and the lower tip region of this uterus is called as the cervix, and the upper expanded part of uterus is called as fundus. So it is a lower part, that region is called as cervix, and the upper extended portion of uterus is called as fundus. The body of uterus communicates with the cervix through opening called as internal orifice, and the cervix communicates with the vagina through an opening called external orifice. So now the lower tip of uterus is called as cervix. This cervix communicates with the vagina. That region is called as external orifice, and the cervix which communicates towards the inner side, that means uterus side, that region is called as internal orifice. The various types of uterus. Duplex type of uterus. These are the simplest type of uteri. Both the uteri are completely separated and open independently into the vagina through two separate openings. This type of uterus we can observe in rat. bifurcate. In these uteri, the lower part of the two uteri are fused and there is a septum in between them. And the example for this type of uterus is carnivorous mammals. Bicornuate, the lower part of two uteri are fused with each other, but their partition wall is absent. This type of uterus we can observe in rabbit. Simplex, the two uteri are completely fused with each other to form only one structure. It is the most developed form of uterus and we can observe in human beings. Hysterectomy, the surgical removal of uterus is called as hysterectomy. Vagina. Vagina is a fibromuscular tube about 9 centimeters in long. It is extending from the uterus to the outside. See in this diagram, this part is called as vagina. It is extended from the uterus to the outside. That means the uterus is opens outside through this vagina. The tip of uterus is called as the cervix. Vagina receives the erect penis during sexual intercourse. Vagina serves as a birth canal during birth of the child. So the birth canal is defined as the cervical canal along with the vagina is called birth canal. The vagina is lined with internally, it lined with a stratified squamous epithelium. The bacteria which harbor vaginal passes secrete lactic acid to maintain low pH, that is 3.5 to 5, for inhibiting the growth of pathogens. So I am repeating this point again. The bacteria which present in vaginal passes secrete lactic acid to maintain low pH. So that low pH is helpful for inhibiting, to restrict the growth of pathogens. External genitalia. External genitalia are also called vulva, includes mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. Mons pubis. It is the outermost structure of external genitalia, which is a cushion of fatty tissue covered by skin and pubic hair. So let's see the diagram of external genitalia. So this region is called as mons pubis and it is a cushion of fatty tissue and covered by skin and pubic hair. This pubic hair growth is puberty, started after sexual maturity. So the growth of this pubic hair indicates the secondary sexual characters. labia majora. These are fleshy folds of skin that extended down from the mons pubis and surround the vaginal opening. So this region is the mons pubis. From this, a fleshy folds extended down from the mons pubis. This region is called as labia majora, and this labia majora surrounds the vagina. This labia majora are homologous to the scrotum of the males. Labia minora. These are paired folds of tissue under the labia majora. So this region is a labia majora, and below this, under this labia majora, the paired folds are called as, these folds are called as labia minora, these folds. Lower portion of minora fuses across the midline and form a fold of skin called as fourchette. So this region, it forms as a lower portion or fuses at the midline region, and that region is called as fourchette. It is the fold which is fuses at the lower region. Clitoris. Small cylindrical and erectile body made by fusion of two labia minora situated in the anterior part of vulva. So this entire structure is called as vulva, and it is posterior region and it is anterior. At this anterior region, a cylindrical erectile body which is formed by fusion of the two labia minora fuse to form the cylindrical structure is called as clitoris. And same this labia minora at the posterior region fuse to form as the fourchette. And now this clitoris is homologous to the penis in the male. The clitoris, this is the clitoris region. This clitoris is the homologous to the penis in the male. Hymen. The vaginal opening is partially closed by a thin membrane of connective tissue and a stratified epithelium called hymen. The hymen is often torn during the first sexual intercourse. Hymen can also be broken by a sudden fall, insertion of a vaginal tampon. A tampon is one of the feminine hygiene product designed to absorb the menstrual flow by insertion into the vagina during menstruation. The active participation in some sports like horse riding, cycling. So due to these reasons, the hymen can also be broken down. So now let's observe the diagram. So the vaginal orifice or maybe vaginal opening is covered with a connective tissue or maybe stratified epithelium. That membrane is called as the hymen. This membrane is torn during the first sexual intercourse, and This hymen can also be broken without this sexual intercourse. It is also broken due to sudden fall or due to participation of some sports like horse riding, cycling, etc. And also it is torn due to insertion of vaginal tampon. So what is this tampon? Tampon is one of the feminine hygiene products designed to absorb the menstrual flow by insertion into the vagina during menstruation. In some women, the hymen persists even after sexual intercourse. The presence or absence of intact, that means not damaged, intact hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. The vulva or external genitalia has following openings. Urethral opening lies on anterior end. So if you are observed this external genitalia, this region is anterior and it is posterior. The opening present at this anterior region is called as urethral opening. So that means through this urethra the urine will ejaculates. Vaginal orifice or vaginal opening. So the vaginal opening is present at this posterior region of this vulva or maybe external genitalia. Bartholin glands. These Bartholin glands are homologous to Cowper's glands of male or bulbourethral glands of male. This Bartholin gland secretes alkaline watery fluid which make alkaline media in vaginal passage. These Bartholin glands are also known as greater and lesser vestibular gland. So these Bartholin glands are situated on lateral side of the vagina. So this is the vaginal region. It is present on lateral side of vagina, the Bartholin glands. And like bulbourethral glands in male, these Bartholin gland secretions are also helpful for the lubrication. Mammary glands. Mammary glands are modified sweat glands. Mammary glands are paired structures that contain glandular tissue and a large amount of fat. So this fat decides the size of the mammary gland. The various size of these mammary glands is due to the content of the fat present in the mammary glands. Each mammary gland consists of about 15 to 25 mammary lobules. So now let's see the diagram. So this region, this part is called as the mammary lobule. So these mammary lobules are 15 to 25 mammary lobules are present in a mammary gland. Each mammary lobe, is made up of grape-like clusters of milk-secreting structures called as alveoli or mammary alveoli or alveolus. So these grape-like clusters are called as alveoli. So these alveoli are considered as the structural and functional units of mammary glands because they secrete the milk. The alveoli open into mammary tubules. All these alveoli or mammary alveoli opens into the mammary tubules. The mammary tubules of each lobe join to form a mammary duct. So these are called as the mammary ducts, and these mammary ducts are formed by the joining of mammary tubules. Several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla. So these the wider tube-like structures are called as the mammary ampulla. These mammary ampulla are formed due to several mammary ducts joined to form this mammary ampulla. This mammary ampulla connected to the lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out through nipple. Students, after proper listening of this part 2, please try to attempt this assignment number 2. The questions are: 1. What is seminal plasma? 2. Write the path through which sperms are released from seminiferous tubules. What is semen? Define the following: A. Azoospermia, B. Oligospermia, C. Asthenozoospermia. Fifth one, name the layers of tissue in the walls of uterus. Sixth, name the uterus wall that undergoes cyclic changes during menstrual cycle. Seventh, what is birth canal? Eighth, what is hymen? Ninth, what are the structural and functional units of mammary glands? 10th, what is peritoneum? 11. Name the uterus wall that undergoes strong contractions during the delivery of the baby. 12th, match the following. Column 1, labia majora, clitoris, Bartholin glands, mammary glands. Column 2, homologous to penis, homologous to scrotum, modified sweat glands, homologous to Cowper's gland. Match this column 1 with this column 2 and try to find the meaning of homologous organs also. Thank you students. Till now we are completed the structures of male and female reproductive systems. And next part we will discuss about gametogenesis.